Ladies and gentlemen, I've spent a long time in my career, and I've had an awful lot of opportunities to give presentations and speeches. However, I've never been given the opportunity to do what I'm about to do. I don't think I've ever been given this important role, and I hope you agree what we're about to propose we can do. So let me begin by building the presentation on 4 pillars. And once we go over the pillars, I'm going to go back and recap for you. But the first pillar has to do with man-made problems. We create an enormous amount of our own problems. I read recently where at any one time of the day, there could be 20 wars or conflicts going on in 20 different countries. We create pollution. We kill ourselves voluntarily in knowing that what we do is going to hurt us. I read recently where half the hospital beds in the world are filled with people with water-related diseases. Half. 500 children a day die from drinking polluted water. So if ignorance is a disease, then knowledge has to be the cure. The time to make the change is now, and for 2 good reasons. One is we've never had the technology before, and 2, what's happening is that the advanced world, the so-called developed world, is moving so quickly that those who are left behind may never catch up. So now is the time to make the change. So the 4th pillar will be for me to call you and the world into action. So going back on the pillars, human problems are caused primarily by humans, that ignorance is the root of the problem, that the time is now to change, and I want to explain how I think we can solve the problem. So what I'd like to have you do now is come with me and imagine. I'd like you to imagine a world. A world without hunger and poverty. A world where people don't have to gather and storm the government to change the government. A world where terrorism is erased, where intolerance is gone. A world without widows caused by conflict and war. A world where weapons are no longer used. A world where you can train a villager to do a diagnosis on a patient, using technology to send that diagnosis off for someone to take a look at, and then come back and suggest a remedy. This is critical, particularly in the rural areas, because the woman who has that particular problem may die on the way to the clinic because of the distance she would have to walk or be carried. Imagine a world where a farmer can call in prices to get the best prices for his crops, or at the same time call in for the weather report. And imagine a world where a child, through a window, can have access to all the information, all the libraries on Earth. Imagine now that any curriculum can be taught in any place on Earth, and by the most brightest people on Earth. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the digital age, the age of information. An age connected by devices, an Earth that's connected by devices full of information. Enabled by a special gift I call the internet, because I think it is a special gift. I don't believe that the fathers or the founders of the internet totally understood what they were doing and what the total impact of what they discovered. As a matter of fact, I asked them that question. They had some good feelings about what was going to happen, but they didn't know all of what was going to happen. So the question is, for us today and for the world, is this gift going to be shared? Are these kids going to share the gift? There are 7 billion people and growing on our Earth. 2.8 billion of them have internet access, including smartphones. That leaves 4.2 billion left. Now, I'd like to go back a little bit in history. I believe the date was 1896 when the discovery of the telephone appeared on the radar. And I can imagine people saying, you know, there's a thing called a telephone. I think I'm saying that right. The telephone. You can pick it up. You can talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime, all over the world. Isn't that wonderful? Well, I want to mention to those of you who may not be aware of this is that it wasn't until mobile technology came on in the 1990s that half the world's population never made one phone call. What makes matters worse is that as the advanced world is moving quicker and quicker toward this digital age and embracing it, there are those who are hiding in the sand, ignoring it, and they're moving at glacial speed in embracing this thing called the digital age. Remember that these are the folks that may never catch up, and they're subjecting billions of people to that destiny. So what are the roadblocks? Why is it that the world isn't connected? I mean, why are people not getting access? Well, there's always going to be objections to anything. But to access, one of the big objections is for those of you who are in government. You're concerned that people will be able to gather quickly, know about the government, have a lot of information, and threaten your jobs. I don't want to get into politics, but I'm here to tell you in my heart that I think it's too late for you to continue to act in a way that's repressing people. And why do I say that? Over 50% of the world's population is under the age of 30. These kids know better. And they deserve, they've earned the right of dignity, respect. They need to be listened to. And they will not tolerate repression as they grow and they try to make a better world for themselves and their children. There are some that think that ICT development, this whole thing is too complex. It's too much of a puzzle. That's okay, because many of the people who are in control are not IT people. That's okay. But what I'm here to tell you is it's not that difficult. There are many, many examples we can provide to you from public-private partnerships that are making this thing work. So don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. The big problem, and I empathize with this, I mean, there are a lot of people out there, and rightfully so, that say, look, I've got starving people. I mean, I can't afford this internet thing. I can't afford it. I understand that. But let me ask you a question. If you can't afford it, what's the cost of ignorance, crime, conflicts, unemployment, poverty, and continual unrest? What's that cost you? There's always going to be objections to major challenges. One of the most famous, of course, is when John Kennedy said we're going to place a man on the moon, return him safely by the end of the decade. Can you imagine being in that audience and said, yeah, right, President Kennedy, right. You're going to put a guy on a rocket and send him to the moon. He's going to walk on the moon. That's right. Sure he is. I have to tell you, how many of you would have said, oh, sure, that's no problem? No. So he challenged the nation. He set a goal. He put up a Saturn rocket. A couple guys got into that, and they went to the moon and they came back. When mankind looks at the earth, what we tend to do is we look at the earth and we divide it. We said, okay, let's divide it into territories, let's divide it into languages. I mean, nobody did that on purpose, but we just look at the world as a different place. Folks, we're all the same. We're all the same. Everyone on earth is the same. We have the same feelings. We have the same needs. Okay? So what I'm proposing is that let's take a look at the world as one. Let's take a look at the globe. Let's approach the problem as a global problem. So if you look at the globe as one, you have to approach a global problem with global solutions. So the idea is to network the world much faster than we're doing it now. I'm so afraid that that other 2 billion who will be left out will be like we did with the telephones. They're going to be left out. Let's give everyone access. So here's the goal. By 2018, connect every K through 12 school, provide devices to every teacher and to every child on the globe. Let's translate the curriculum and put it at their fingertips. By 2028, connect the entire planet for everyone who wishes access. Provide them devices, provide them training, and watch what happens. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to break the barriers to get this job done. And how are we going to do this? My suggestion is this, is that we have to use the proper tools for the job. We're not doing that now. The tool we need to use is we need to join together as a global community. Go out to the people who every day spend hundreds of millions or billions of dollars to fund different projects. Ask them for a percentage of what they spend, put it into a super fund under a foundation, tightly controlled. Any of the corporations that are involved in the deployment of this global network will put back money that they earn from the work that they do. There's no reasons why the World Bank, any of the funding agencies, governments who benefit from this will do something to put some money back into the fund to keep it sustained, and then we can also ask individuals. So with laser beam focus, I believe we can do this. There are working samples we can show if anyone needs to be convinced. And I'm calling the world to action on this. And at the end of the presentation, I have my email address. And all I need is a number of you to come into this. I will take the critical mass, we'll go out and get more foundations, and then we'll get the job done. That's the email address. And we'll show it to you again at the end. Now, let me conclude with a few thoughts for you to think about. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to approach the problem realistically. The roots of ignorance run deep. Deep. Yet what we tend to do is we prune the branches of the tree. We need to get to the root, and that's where the ignorance starts. That's the root of many of our problems. So, Margaret Mead, a famous anthropologist, gives us some words of wisdom here. She said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. For indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. I want to take that one step further. If a small group can change the world, what could we do? The stakes are way, way too high here for us to fail. They're out there by the millions waiting for us. And they're waiting very patiently.
But I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one.
Imagine a world connected for everyone. Imagine what that world would look like. I'm asking you to get into the capsule. Instead of going to the moon, let's go to the stars. Thank you very much. Thank you.